Today, day one, as everybody knows, wow. All I can say is wow. The central office folks tried to make our way to every single school in the district. We have not even had time to debrief, so I'm not sure how we did. But I can talk a little bit about my experience today. I made it to, I think, 10 or 11 schools. And though very, very different, this was not our typical day one. There was still a buzz in the buildings. I had a chance to greet the administrators of the schools that I visited and the front office staff. We got to visit several of our classrooms, and there was teaching and learning going on. And, you know, we had some glitches. We had some technical issues we had to overcome. Just some things that really, because we've never been through this, we didn't know exactly what to anticipate, but we were problem solvers in our schools today. And we believe that each day will be a little smoother. And we're not saying we're going to solve all the world's problems when it comes to virtual learning. But I was so excited just to see teachers with kids in classrooms, though virtual, and taking them through lessons. A lot of really impressive stats that we're just now beginning to receive from across the district. But you know, this was my, as I told our staff in a video earlier today, this was my 35th first day of school. And I'll tell you, this is going to be forever memorable. A lot of work went into the launch today.
Thanks, Dr. McDaniel. Similar to your first day, I had a wonderful first day, though different. Out of 26 years of first days of school as either a teacher or administrator, this was quite different, but it still had that same energy. Walking down the halls of various classrooms, and I got to visit everything from a pre-K classroom to a junior English classroom, just to hear instruction taking place. Usually on the first day of school, especially visiting, you know, the little ones, elementary, there's a lot of practice and procedures that go on, and those are still happening today. I could still overhear, and I observed and witnessed teachers teaching students how to give a sign that, hey, can you see what's on my screen? Give me a thumbs up. Here's the signal for if you have to ask a question. Here's the practice that we're going to use to make sure that we're polite to one another and don't overspeak and try to talk while others are talking. And what kind of etiquette are we going to use on the computer? So that gave me that warm first day feeling that I so desperately sought today and worried that wouldn't happen, but it happened. Learning was taking place, and it was definitely a first day of school from Oklahoma City. Some things that really amazed and astounded me when I took a look at the stats is that we've talked all summer long about a learning management system and a content management system. Well, we utilize, in order to provide that instruction and to host our instruction for our teachers, a piece of software called Canvas. That software our teachers were unfamiliar with just last spring. Last time we had students in our building, we did not utilize that learning management system. Yet today, logging on the first day, we had almost 8,000 courses that were put on Canvas and utilized by teachers and students. We had over 2,000 teachers that logged on to Canvas and taught their lessons using that learning management system that didn't even exist in our district, or we didn't utilize in this district just a mere few months ago. 32,000 plus students logged on today to get onto Canvas and to access the lessons. That's just astounding, considering that those things were not in place prior to the end of the school year and the last time that students walked out of class in the middle of March, not realizing that they would not step back into class either at the end of last year or for first day of school this year to be able to convert and pivot. I just have to commend our teachers, our administrators, our support staff. One of the other stats I would give, because I think it's just in testament to our staff and our support staff and all of our teachers providing that great instruction. We knew that we would need to provide some technology support. We knew that regardless of how much preparation that we put in, there would be issues that happen. Someone's password wouldn't work. A charger cord wouldn't connect properly. And so what we did is we galvanized several of our support staff members. And so we had a team of over 50 team members who would provide technology support. for our parents and our students who would call in. And so we anticipated an influx of calls. We received those calls and we answered questions and got information to them and help to our parents and students. Now, like every first day, I would always tell my staff there's always going to be some glitches. Normally it's the printer. Throughout my career, it was always the printer is guaranteed to go down right before the first day of school or the first day of school. We knew there would be some glitches, but I'm so proud of our support staff and our team members for stepping up to the plate to give us a fun, successful first day of school, albeit a little different, still a first day of school by our 35,000 plus students in Oklahoma City Public Schools. Probably to talk a little more in depth or a little more detail, we do have our wonderful Principal Cannon from FD Moon, and I believe we have one of our instructors on as well. So I'm going to turn it over to them to give some detail about sites.
Thanks, Dr. McDaniel and Mr. Brown. I definitely appreciate being on here. We have had a really great day. I absolutely have to give praise to my staff because we really did have to learn a learning management system in a short period of time. And just a few months ago, I've had teachers like, oh my goodness, you know, it was stressful. I felt the frustration. But today they had kids in front of them and smiling and delivered instruction. So you wouldn't even be able to tell that they kind of had those fears a couple of months ago. Lots of professional development, lots of support from the district. So lots of man hours have definitely gone into making sure we have a successful first day of school. And I'm very grateful for the leadership in this district and how my teachers showed up today. And we're calling students and calling parents and walking parents through how to get on and just really providing that support to our families. And it has just been an amazing beginning of the school year. And I'm so very grateful for the year, the day that we have had so far.
I'm excited about this day. I anticipated this day. Though we're living in unprecedented times, I can't speak for most teachers, but I'm so glad that we're educating young minds today, and looking at those beautiful and handsome faces just made my day. There's some challenges that came up during the week, but I'm so glad that our district leadership took the time to mitigate some of that anxiety and uncertainty that we had as teachers by providing exceptional professional development. At first I thought it was too much, but it's just the right amount of teaching. So I'm glad that we had that because it allowed me to be able to mitigate some of the anxiety and uncertainty that the parents had throughout this weekend. So today, to see the children and see them smiling and see them just learning and building relationships, this is what we're made for. This is why I'm here. So I was just so glad to be part of this. So thank you for having me on.
Okay, now we're going to kick off the question and answer section. And Trina from Channel 5, do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yes, Dr. McDaniel actually talked about this morning, but I thought you want to kind of go into detail a little bit about it. About this morning, on a Friday, you had mentioned that parents would have to show IDs for meals. That was kind of breaking news this morning, that parents, they don't have to do that now due to a waiver. Could you talk about that and where that waiver is from?
Sure, I can. Trey, it's good to see you. So the word came down this morning to the states that the USDA has approved an extension of the summer feeding program. What that means is once our state officially signs off on that, we no longer have to require proof of enrollment or ID from students who come up to our curbside meal service. So what we're waiting on right now is final approval from the state. It's already been enacted at the federal level that the summer feeding has been extended. And so, and honestly, since I spoke about that this morning, we may have received the state waiver. I don't know that, but you'll probably find out before I do. But that's what that's all about. So really, it helps our families and our students in all the metro area, in fact, nationally, get meals. without having to provide some sort of an ID or any kind of proof of enrollment. And that matters because a lot of our kids, it's very difficult for them to get to a meal site. And so many times an aunt or a grandmother or a mother will come by. We saw this during the pandemic and then through the summer, and pick up multiple meals for kids that are at home. And so while kids are learning virtually, this will allow that grandma or caregiver to come and pick up a meal for the child who is at home learning. So we're really, really excited about that.
Yes, that's great news. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, Nuria, do you have a question?
Hi, yes, I have a question for Dr. Prescott, actually. First, Mr. Prescott, I was hoping you could tell us what grades and what subject areas you teach. But my real question for you is just how did you manage to keep your students engaged in a virtual setting?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for that. My name is Winston Prescott. I'm a 5th grade math and science teacher, as well as a lead teacher for FD Moon Middle School, serving at Edwards campus. I think part of that is I get animated, and we showed videos that were kind of animated that dealt with protocols and procedures and just made it fun and engaging. That's how they stayed engaged. The time actually was going faster than I had to keep track of the time because it was going really fast. So that's basically it. I stay animated with them. I make them communicate. So we were talking back and forth, communicating back and forth. And so I think that's what I did. You're welcome.
Thank you. Barry with News 9, do you have a question?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my question is, I saw earlier in the day that on the OKCPS Twitter that there was a issue with the phone lines. There's a phone outage. And I was wondering if someone, possibly Dr. McDaniel, or I'm not sure who'd be best for this, but if someone could kind of just describe the scope of that issue and how it might have interrupted kind of tech help, because you mentioned you had more than 50 people for tech support. Did that kind of interrupt them? And has that issue been resolved?
Hey, Barry, thanks for the question. I'm going to kick it over. I can tell you that some of the South Side schools were impacted the most. Marigold Ross, Mark Twain, and a handful of others. I have been out in schools, and so Jason, do you have more information on that for Barry?
I have a little bit because I saw some of these problem solving in action. When I did make it back for a short amount of time to the office, my own assistant was actually taking calls that were originally intended for Mary Golda Ross. And so I was really proud of her as a team member because she took a question and call from a parent who had problems logging on to Canvas, got her question, got her information, got her child's teacher name, and then actually shared the teacher's email address because it was a brand new teacher. The parent didn't have immediate access to that. And then she emailed over to the site, gave them the parent's name and said, this is a parent who I talked to that had problems getting through on the phone. Here's her number. As soon as phones come back up, can someone give her a return call? She had a question about her child's 6th hour. And so I saw a little bit of that problem solving. So it did create an additional barrier for some parents in order to get immediately through. But again, that was part of our having team members on standby to answer phones. And so a lot of those were routed to central office. We took messages, answered the questions we could, got those via a variety of other ways to sites so that they could contact parents. But that did affect us this morning. My understanding is some of that was via our provider, some of that was via the weather. But I always say it was because it was first day of school that something was bound to happen. But that's just my experience and for first days of school. But we problem solved and got information to parents as best we could.
Thank
And
you.
just to add to that too, the issue has been resolved and we are 100% up and running now.
Thank you. And the only other, one other question I had was, I know that over the weekend there was kind of the last shipment of hotspots was coming in. Have those been distributed, or are we waiting on more? That was the last question.
Yeah, so Barry, it sounds like all are in our possession. We got our last shipment, I believe, over the weekend. And so we've got teams right now who are just verifying all the hotspots, setting them up to be distributed either this evening or first thing in the morning to the schools, and then they will go right to the families. So by end of day tomorrow, worst case scenario, probably midday Wednesday, our families should be in possession across the district of hotspots. And we're talking about 8 to 10 schools of those who did not have their hotspots as we started school this morning.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, is anyone here from Channel 4 with a question? Okay, Fox 25. Okay. Kristen with Metro Family Magazine, did you have a question? Telemundo, did you have anything?
Yes, I actually did. So my name is Kevin. I'm with Telemundo, and this question's directed to whoever can answer it. But we made a post on our Facebook page that just got some insight on how the families balance the first day of school since it is virtual, and we had a couple families say that they had some issues with translation because some of our Hispanic families obviously speak Spanish and that's their only language. And whenever it came to teaching, moms had to try to balance translating for some of their younger kids and some of their older kids. So do we have any solution for that? Is there something that we could do to help these families that only speak Spanish?
You know, I don't know how detailed I can get with the answer. Courtney, maybe you can jump in and help out with this. But our first line is certainly the schoolhouse. And so if there are concerns, the first call can be to the school and go through the process that you would go through if you had an issue if we were in the brick and mortar setting. So I would contact the front office of the school and see if we can get some assistance that way. Courtney, is there anything else that you can add to that?
Sure. So Kevin, just so I understand, are you asking about being able to talk to the school or someone who speaks Spanish? Or are you talking about the parents translating like what the teacher is teaching?
The latter. So just making sure that these students are understanding what the teacher is saying, because that's what that was the experience that they gave us in the comments of our Facebook post, was that a mom had a few students in 3rd grade and some students in 1st grade. And so she had to try to balance going from one of her kids to the other because they didn't have someone who spoke Spanish in the classroom. And so while they're in person, it can be a little bit easier for the student to understand what the teacher's asking them compared to obviously virtual learning where it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, and I think in this situation, the only time we would have a bilingual teacher with the students or a bilingual paraprofessional would be for our newcomer programs or for our dual language programs. And so if there is a specific issue in a class or with a specific school or a specific family, they can reach out to the school and let us know what their needs are, and we can try to accommodate those needs for those families, especially if it's, a mom trying to balance several different age groups. So I would just encourage any of our families to reach out to their school or the district office and let us know what those needs are so that we can look into a way to to support the family.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Hey, Kevin, if it's okay, and Dr. McDaniel, if you don't mind, since I was part of the teams that tasked the support staff, it's important to remember we were spread thin because we also wanted to make sure that parents who were bilingual or parents who spoke Spanish only had someone who could answer their questions on the support line. And so some of those individuals who would help out in the classroom were playing double duty. And so whereas we would typically have more classroom coverage moving forward, then, and we know that we're going to have to adjust for virtual. We also know that with tech calls, enrollment calls, and instructional, then we were spread thin. And so we had bilingual support in as many areas as we could, and we had wonderful people doing a great job, but they were spread very thin today. So that is something I appreciate the question, Kevin, because that is something we definitely can take a look at.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks. And it looks like we are back to Trina. Did you have any other questions?
I think everyone is almost dropped off.
Okay. Barry?
I do have one more kind of question. This might be a little bit of a stretch just on the first day. I know, Dr. McDaniel, you said you hadn't had too much of a chance to debrief, but just I know that we've there's a whole lot on social media to go to, and I by no means think that this was a widespread experience, but I know that there are some people who were not able to log on and had issues, whether it was issues on their end or with the device or something, but there were some folks that were not able to get into class today. Do you have a sense that the issues that people might have faced today will be kind of resolved with experience, or is there kind of a more kind of a change of infrastructure that is needed at this point?
I think it's way too early to jump to any conclusions like we need to change our infrastructure. What I think more is that this was day one of what's been called unprecedented. We knew that, Jason talked about on March 13th when we entered into the pandemic, we were not a one-to-one device district. We did not have a learning management system fully in place. A lot of things have happened over the last 5 or 6 months, and so we anticipated that we were going to need some tech support today, and I think that's what it is. It's a combination of technical support and then also just getting better at what I'm doing, whether it's as a teacher or a student or an administrator. We just need to learn it and get better at it, and I think that will take care of a lot of the issues that we have. But we also realize that with technology, no matter how good you are, no matter how long you've been doing it, we're going to have glitches, we're going to have issues. So our commitment is, and by the way, we have an unbelievable IT program in this district department, and they are all hands on deck. So we want to identify, collect information, what's going wrong, and then let's get our people in to resolve those issues, along with practice and getting better at it. So we're not looking at structural changes right now. We're just wanting time to get behind us so we get better at what we do. Great set of questions, though, Barry.
Nuria, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to pose this question to any administrator who wanted to answer. So I've been thinking today about the first day of school last year and how at that time you all were just coming off of P2G and there were a lot of changes then. And today there have been even more. But it made me wonder, does the district's ability to manage this pandemic look any differently without Pathway to Greatness? If that had not happened or if you hadn't completed it yet, is there any difference in the way you all are approaching it or able to manage the situation?
I'll take a stab at that one, and then Jason, feel free to jump in. First of all, I don't think that way. So I don't think let's go back and see what might be, if not that. I look at P2G as a very ambitious step forward. The comparisons, though, are there are some similarities. I mean, massive overhaul 1 year ago. You know, changing, as you know, changing boundaries and different bus rides and different schools and teachers, and the list is long as far as change, and then adjusting to that. Fast forward 1 year, it's not that, but it is something just as disruptive. This is not normal. What's normal is for kids and teachers to be in buildings together. This is not normal. And so it is disruptive and can be very distracting. But here's what I know in both instances. In both instances, our families, our teachers, our support employees, our administrators, our community are rolling their sleeves up and doing the very best that they can under the circumstances. What I've said since I've been here, and I'll say it again and again and again, is we do not have a bunch of whiners in Oklahoma City Public Schools. We have people who recognize that, hey, this is different, this is tough, I may not like this. And then as soon as they think that, they're rolling up their sleeves and they're getting to work. I expect that to be the case here, is that we're going to overcome because we have positive thinkers, we have adults who are here for kids, and we don't waste a lot of time whining. And I love that about this school district. So Jason, jump in and clean up my mess there.
You know, I would just say, number one, anytime you have change and something starts different, you have a hard time using the previous year as a precedent. And so that was the start of school last year. It was very difficult to use the previous year as a precedent. So I remember on the first day of school, we had, which is very typical of a first day of school, you had people in new places, you had new buildings, you had things that okay, we didn't have the previous year to realize that perhaps we should have placed this bus route or the bus pickup someplace different, or the passing, because we didn't have the previous year's experience. And so unfortunately we had to learn that the first day. This year I encountered a teacher who said, I've been working on Zoom, we've been doing it for months. It wasn't until this morning that I realized I could better perform and better serve my students with two monitors. I like to see my students and pull up information. Whereas when I'm working with adults, I don't have to look at all of the adults. I would just share my screen, and said as many hours as I've been on, it wasn't until 5 minutes into the first class that I realized that would have been a great idea for me to set that up prior, because they didn't have the precedence. And so that's when you have big changes and when you have things, that's what you lose and that's what you miss. And sometimes you have to learn lessons on the first day. And so that sometimes makes for a more frustrating a first day, or at least more hurdles than you would typically have when you had a typical year. Something that I found as a moment of levity in the newness of it at a site today is, instead of showing fifth graders or first graders where classes were located, we had an office where they, after the third quick parent call that said, my students logged in, but the teacher's not there, they quickly realized, and the teacher quickly realized, they clicked on the next hour's link. And so it was the first time ever for a first day that the students were there and the teacher was not there. It's always the sixth graders or fifth graders or the younger ones in the building who are lost. And it's not that the teacher was lost, but she's looking for the students. The students are wondering where the teacher is. And I thought never before would I have imagined in my first day of school that because of a link, students logged on and didn't have a teacher there, and the teacher's looking for the students because they logged on a different link. So that only took a few seconds to get fixed, but it did remind all of us who were present there that what a different first day it is. But it's again, our kids and our teachers and our parents especially have been extremely resilient through this. And we hope that next year we start with some practice in mind, and there are no big pandemics or P2Gs or big changes, earth-shifting changes in the lives of our students or teachers that we'd have to adjust to, even though I think they've done a wonderful job making that adjustment.
Hey, Nuri, I want to add a little more to that. I think about what if we didn't have P2G? You know, one of the things that ran side by side with P2G was Embrace OKC, that focus on the social, emotional, mental health of our kids and families. And I think because we went down the P2G pathway, we got more nurses, we got more counselors, we got more social workers. And so one of the important things that we've identified through pandemic and as we're planning for this year is we've got to be really good at evaluating where our kids are, not just academically, but from a social, emotional, mental health standpoint. So now that we have many more counselors, nurses, social workers, we have this thing called Embrace OKC, that community partnership, we can now better evaluate where our kids and families are, and then connect resources to them where gaps exist. So I think it's, for a lot of reasons, I think P2G really helped us, without us even knowing it, prepare for something like a pandemic. So, you know, the more I think about that, if you keep me on here long enough, I'm going to come up with more good stuff about it. But thank you for the question. That was really good, thoughtful.
Thank you. And then Crystal, is anybody else asking questions at this point? Or?
You can, if you have another question, go ahead. I think you're the only one.
Okay. Well, I guess I would just ask one of Principal Cannon. When you think back to what you were doing last year on the first day compared to what you're doing today, how have things changed? I know you're kind of nodding as Jason was talking about some of the hiccups of a virtual first day. So just can you kind of take us through what the first day was like today?
Well, last year I was actually working at central office in the TLE department, but just thinking about other, I had been a principal before. So other school, you know, years and kind of opening up, it was a little different. I got to tell Mr. Brown today, I said, you know, I need kids in my life. I'm used to walking down the hallway saying, why are you in the bathroom? You should be in class. I need that in my life. So I definitely miss having my kiddos in the building and, you know, building those relationships. I've got to peek over the shoulder of a lot of my teachers today just to get a glimpse at kids and, you know, everything. So yes, it is different starting a school year this way and, you know, sending out links and getting in front of kids. It's been very different, but it's also rewarding. And it's also an opportunity that, you know, there's no limits or boundaries that we have now to how we can reach kids. So I also think that it's a really great opportunity to say, yes, we are used to our kiddos coming in the building. We're used to having our kids here, but I think this is giving us also some more ways in the future of how, you know, we can reach kids that are not able to come to school at times. So now we have, you know, a ton of different ideas and ways to reach kids. So it's a good opportunity for us. And I'm like everybody else, I'm just waiting for kids to be back in the building. So I do miss that part of the school year with our kiddos coming the first day of school.